Okay, so let's get started. Hello everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on QA KPIs with AIO test reports. I'm Nupur. Some of you I'm already working with. I'm part of the product and customer success team here at AIO Tests, and I'm excited today to take you through this session. So at AIO Tests, we get a lot of queries about tracking and analyzing the QA activities. And we thought it would be a good idea to talk about these QA KPIs and how reporting can help make sense of some of these activities, right? Because there's so many activities that happen in the QA domain, and sometimes it becomes difficult to keep a track of everything, and also to make sense of the health, the quality of the quality team, right? So we are going to look at some of the numbers that you might already be looking at, but in a totally different light today. So what we are going to do in this webinar is we are going to use a typical release cycle. We will highlight the AIO test reports that can come handy in each of these testing phases. Before I start, I just want to quickly introduce some of the team members who are on the call. So I have Priyanki from our business development team. We also have Shrikant from the reports team and Rashwin from the support team. Right. So let's get started. So this is what we'll be covering today. First, we will go over the key QA KPIs, what they are and why they matter. Then we will move into the specific reports from AIO tests that help monitor and utilize these KPIs from a process improvement perspective, as well as from a monitoring perspective. And by the end of this session, I hope you will have like a clear understanding of how to use some of these reports to make better testing decisions. Sounds good? Let's get started. And just a quick thing, if you guys have any questions during the session, please feel free to put it into the chat window, and one of the team members from our side would get back to you. Right. So what are the QA KPIs, right? So simply put, they are the key performance indicators that tell us whether our testing efforts are actually working. These KPIs give us a data-driven way to measure and improve our QA processes. You already kind of will be able to really relate with the testing life cycle that you see right now on the screen, and this is what we'll be going through throughout this session, and we'll take one phase at a time and see what metrics are important and which metrics will help us progress through each of these phases, and of course which AIO test reports come in handy, right? So let's talk about the first one, which is the start of the release. What happens normally as a manager or as a lead, you'll be given a set of stories or features that are part of the ongoing release. And you'll be tasked to ask your team to start writing cases. Some of the questions that typically need answering during this phase is like, is everybody writing the test cases? How many have they written? Or are they updating existing cases? Are we near to starting like the feature testing execution, right? And as you get towards the finishing of the case creation duration, you would be asked if the stories that are a part of the release have enough cases against them, right? Are the cases enough to start execution? So now let's look at few AIO test reports to answer some of these questions. So this is our AIO tests reports section. What I've done is I've pre-created some reports and saved them in order to go through them today. So we'll be starting, there are 4 reports that we will be looking at from a release start perspective. The first one I'm going to show is the case distribution. This one is going to show you, I'll show you the input in a second, which requirements are part of this 4.7.9 release, and how many cases have been written against each of these stories, and who has written these cases, right? So this is like a quick view that you can say if all your stories that are part of the release are being worked upon, who is working on what, and how many cases kind of have been written so far for a particular story. We have this little checkbox. If you uncheck it, you would also be able to see which stories have absolutely no progress at all against them. so far, right? So these numbers can come really handy when you have to answer some of the questions that we looked at the start of the release, right? And if I click on edit here on the top, you'll be able to look at the input. So I'm in the case distribution report, I have inputted all the requirements. So I've selected the requirements from Jira using the JQL, and I've grouped them by requirement and case owner. So this is what I wanted to review as a manager. So this is the groupings that I have selected. But again, the reports are flexible enough to kind of show you the data that you are looking for. Okay. So this is one way of looking at the numbers by your team and by your requirements. The same information, if you want to look at from a perspective of your own like users, like what are they exactly doing, how many cases have they created or updated, right? Those numbers can also be reviewed using an user activity report. So here the input slightly changes. Here we have like inputted entered the users from the QA team that we have, and I've selected which activities I want to review, right? So if you want to kind of answer the question of how many cases have been created, updated, or automated with in a given duration for a particular release, you can look at, put the dates here, choose the activity time period. Like if it's a start, you can also do a daily review. I've done monthly. And then this is the kind of output that would be presented. And all our reports have drill down capability. So you can always click on these numbers and look at more details. Okay. So this is by users. This is the user activity report. Another one is if a question gets asked, what is the case creation rate, right? What rate your team is creating cases. So again, this one is a project activity report for the entire project. How many cases have been created, updated, and automated, right? So different reports, same information, but answering different questions. Again, you can choose the start dates and you can choose which activities you would like to review. Okay. So these are some of the different reports as you progress through the case creation phase. You can use some of these reports to kind of get a sense of the progress your team is making. Towards the end of case creation, one of the basic questions is from a coverage perspective, and that's where our traceability summary report comes into picture, right? This report can be useful before you kickstart the next phase of executions. So here again, the input is going to be my fixed version from Jira. It could be a sprint, it could be releases, however you plan your releases, and then you would be able to see if everything is covered or not covered and how many cases so far have been written. So kind of case coverage, right? So here we can see one case is one particular requirement is still not covered. It has zero cases associated. So you can go back to the team and kind of understand how much more time is required to get the data ready for the next phase of execution. And also if you feel that a story is complicated and it has only one case, for example, again, these questions can be asked and you can do like a deep dive analysis to see where your team is from a case creation perspective, right? So let's get back to the next phase. And again, as I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to post them into the chat. So the next phase is the execution phase. It is kind of the giant as a manager that you have to be tackling, right? So firstly, I think one of the key things for this phase is the ability to have a handle on the workload of your team. Is it manageable? Is one user doing more than the others? If you have a timeline for your release, right? Like, are they on track with the timelines that you have committed to? Secondly, and one of the most frequently asked questions, apart from workload analysis, which is a little internal, is your execution status. Even in execution status, there are 2 points. One is, okay, what is the execution status based on, let's say, your testers, or based on any client timelines that have been communicated, or maybe, different environments or regions during which, for which you're doing the execution. And the second important parameter that comes into picture here is your defects. Because as execution progresses, defects come up in the form of risks, right? Those are the risks because it is not just a defect getting logged and your team would have to just look at it, but a logged defect has a direct impact on the timeline because it will have to be debugged, it would by your dev team, it would have to be fixed, it would have to be deployed, and it will have to be retested, right? So as a manager, you'll have to keep an eye on the number of defects as well. So all this information, how would you be able to quickly, gather all these numbers from our reports? So let's now look at the execution part. I have two reports ready here. One, which I'm going to start with, is the from a workload perspective, right? So we'll see the multi-cycle execution distribution. So if I go here, what I've done here, since we are in the feature testing phase right now for our release, I have included all the feature testing cycles that my team has created, right? So all the different features have their own cycles in our setup. So I've included all the features that have started execution, and that I have done the distribution right now by user assignment. So what you see here is that I have 4 testers, and what is the progress that each of these testers are making. So the query that could be answered is, let's say once feature testing is over and you have to kick off regression, you will be able to quickly get an answer about your timelines, right? Okay, so only this much estimated effort is remaining, and so we'll be able to kick off regression, let's say in the time of 2 days, and accordingly you can plan the final release timeline as well, along with the workload analysis that can be easily done from this report. Now, what I have done is I was looking at it from a user perspective, right? But this report is so flexible that depending on what you're looking for, right, you can also look at the priority. Distribute this report by priority, which will tell you if your team has already executed all the critical cases for all the different features or not, right? Or you can do it even by requirement to see how each requirement is being executed, and is any requirement completely executed or not. So it's a great report, and it allows you the flexibility of slicing and dicing the data as per your needs. But queries can be easily answered using this report. Okay. So this one is more from the one that I have highlighted is more from a workload perspective. And the other one that I would like to show here is the multi-cycle execution summary report. We also have a single cycle summary report. This one is going to be able to answer your queries about your execution progress, right? So here again, I have selected let me show you all the feature testing cycles. Okay. It's telling me how many cases my team is going to be executing across all the 6 cycles. How many are still to be completed. So you can see that we are nearing completion for the feature testing phase. And then 90 cases have passed, and one is still in a failed status. And again, as I said, a lot of things are clickable on our report, which allows you to drill down and get more details. Okay. And then we have estimated and actual effort numbers, everything getting captured in the system, and the reports being able to pull that data into meaningful numbers. And if you scroll down, you would see each cycle here and the progress against each of the cycles. So I can easily make out that this is the only cycle that is remaining where execution is still happening. Everything else is completely done, right? And the second point that I had made initially was about the defects. So if you scroll this down, you would also see a defect summary in the same report, which gives you a very critical information about the impact that is this release is going to have in the timeline, as well as from the stability of the release, right? If you're finding more defects, you're going to need more time to retest them. You're going to figure out more areas that you would want to test, right? Because bugs keep on coming in a particular area. So it's a very, a single report giving you answers to multiple queries that can be asked from an execution perspective. Okay. So this is also a defect list as well as the status and priority. So it also kind of gives you visibility into the quality of the development that has happened for this release, right? If there are more defects, if there are more like highest or critical defects that have been logged, then you would want to have a more rigorous regression cycle created. right? So these are the two reports. We do have a multitude of execution reports. If you go into the cycle execution, you can see we have burn down, burn up reports to kind of look at from the planning perspective if everything is going according to planning. And again, comparison reports, there is a detailed report as well if you want to do a deep dive analysis. Okay. So let's look at the next phase. So once execution is kind of done, the next thing that you have to talk about is the release readiness. This is again not an easy phase. It's very important because this is where now you're ready to take some decisions. The go no go decision is never simple. You kind of have to evaluate your release for a multitude of points, right? Did every feature get tested? What were the number of defects? What was the like if a particular area had resulted in more defects, what is that area stable, like is that feature stable enough to so that we can go and kind of certify this release. Also, you know what we have to watch out for if the execution is completed, not completed. Let's say you have 5 open bugs. Are you okay to release with this 5 open bugs? Do these bugs have like a significant impact in terms of the core functionality, or are these like medium or low level defects and it's okay to address them in the next release, but the current release is still certifiable to some extent, right? So these are some of the queries that you would want to answer before you make a decision about the release. So let's see which reports can help you in this one. Okay, so this is there are two reports that I have done here. One is the traceability summary and the defect impact. The traceability summary, we had a look just like a minute ago or so. But this time we are also going to look at the execution details, right? So we have changed the input a little bit. In addition to the requirements, we have also provided the cycles in which all the executions have happened. Okay, so cycles is where all the execution data is going to be held if you're using AIO. So we have provided that in the input. And then once you look at this report, it's going to tell you, I've used a different one because this is kind of a completed release for us. 7 requirements were part of the release. 6 were covered by testing. 1 had not a single case written against them, which is of course a thing of concern that at regression time, there is still one feature which is not covered. 119 cases were written and tested, and 5 defects have been found, right? You kind of can see the priority of the cases and the defect status. And below that, we'll be able to see a table which will tell you the features, which their coverage, how many cases cover that. This much we also saw in the initial report. But in addition, because we have included the cycle information, we are able to see the execution results, percentage of testing completed, and the defect count for each of the different features. Now I can quickly, like if it's a go, no go type of a meeting, right? You can quickly see that, okay, if there is something that is not covered at the time of regression, is it okay for us to even talk about this release? But here we can see that this was only done for the development instance. So we are okay even if it is not covered, right? So you can see the amount of information that this report is giving is two-tiered. One, is it covering, are your features covered by testing? And 2, have they been executed properly? And do you feel confident enough to go ahead and say that this release is certified, right? So this is a great report to use in such a, like at the time of making a decision about the final readiness of the release. Okay. The other report that can be really handy in such situations is if you want to do a little bit more deep dive and see what defects were found and what is the status of the defects, and is there any defect that would have a adverse impact on the release, right? So this is our defect impact report. It says that in this 4.7.8 release that we completed, 50 defects were found. 27 defects were caught via testing, and 23 defects were missed. When we say missed, it means they were directly logged into Jira, but they were not linked with any case executions. So this is, I mean, I think the more technical term around this would be the defect leakage, right? So this kind of gives you another layer of information. And if you scroll down, you can see what are the different defects that were found, how many cases failed, and how many requirements got impacted because of a single defect, right? So again, multitude information points that you're getting in this report, right? One, if this was still open, you would might not want to kind of go ahead with this release, because if it was not addressed, it's the highest priority defect, and see the number of requirements that are getting impacted by this one defect, right? So you might not want to kind of certify the release at all. Or if on most of them are resolved, only one is not resolved and it was low priority, even if it has a lot of impact, you might still want to certify the release, right? So this is the defect impact report. You can treat this also as a reverse of the traceability summary. It's instead of from requirements, this is from the defects perspective. Okay, right. Great. So these are the two reports that I wanted to show from a readiness perspective. The next topic that I want to talk about is, let's say, once the release is done, uh, one of the more like a lot of organizations also have automation, right? When during the execution phase, and it plays a significant role in the team's ability to churn out the releases faster. But still, a very frequently asked question is, what is your automation team doing? Is it adding any value in terms of manual effort savings, right? How can we quickly, let's say if you want to do a hot fix or a quick release, and you want to make sure that only automation cover the part that is being hot fixed, right? So can we have a quick answer using any of the reports to a query about which areas are automated, or if the particular area that they want to test is automated or not, right? So let's see some of the automation reports that we have, which kind of tell you the ROI of your automation team. So we have I've used the same report, but I'm going to give you the same report. I want to show the same report, if used differently, can give you different views, right? So let's see the automation coverage. First one I want to show is the regression status. So this one, I'll show you the input again, so you kind of get an idea as to what we are trying to show. Instead of requirements, this time for automation coverage, I am choosing the cycles. So here, what we do normally is we have one manual regression cycle for the manual team for the areas that are not automated. And then the automation team has several automation cycles, because we have, so many areas. So different automation cycles are executed by our automation team. And I have done the distribution by priority. So what you're going to look at right now is that in our final regression of release 4.7.8, we planned to execute 488 cases, out of which 60% was done by the automation team or through the automation execution, right? And 40% execution was done by the manual team. So again, you can see that more than half of your execution was brought to be done and completed by the automation team. You can also, if you have used the estimated and actual effort numbers and entered them correctly in AIO, you can also look at that if we had not automated these 299 cases, it would have taken us 127 hours to complete the entire 488 cases. But because of automation, 70 hours were saved, right? And it was, so basically you're cutting your release timelines in half, right? So that is the kind of information this report can provide you, giving the kind of highlighting what the automation team is doing. Since I had done it by priority, like the distribution, we can see the priority of the cases. 378 total cases were critical that were supposed to be executed, and 230 out of which were automated and executed by the automation team, right? So again, a lot of numbers here, but ultimately you will be able to show the kind of the numbers from an automation team's execution perspective as well using this report, right? So this is the automation coverage report from an execution perspective. Similarly, if the same report you can use to kind of figure out quickly which areas are covered by automation. Okay, so what we have done here is we have created sets. Sets in AIO are just logical groupings of test cases, right? So it could be critical sets, it could be your smoke set. So here I have taken the smoke suit, which is our completely automated, right? So here you can say out of 35 cases, we have automated 30. And that's where I can say that if you want to do a hot fix, I only need about 1 hour of manual team's effort to certify the hotfix. And quickly you can see, because the grouping is by folders, all the areas that are going to be executed by automation are going to be listed here. So you know what all areas are getting covered by automation, right? So this is another way of looking at the using the automation coverage report to answer automation related queries. There is another report that we have is the automation burn down report. This tells you the rate at which your automation team is kind of doing your automate, like how many cases they are automating at a regular rate. And you can see that for us, if I started at 2024, how many cases got automated in each quarter, right? So the automated percentage has grown as we have added more features to the product and things like that. The numbers have grown still, and we are at kind of 60% automation rate for our critical cases. This is our P0 cases automation rate. Right. So again, and we'll be adding another automation report with in the May release, like release that we are planning for May. Right. So these are some reports that can quickly help you, kind of the sense of reliability that you can have on your automation team. Great. So let's go to the next one. The last phase that I want to talk about is the continuous improvement phase, right? With the release done, yeah, everybody can heave a sigh of relief. But as a manager, lead, or tester, the work is not completed. There is always room for improvement. What can we do better next release? Where did we go wrong? And how do we address it going forward? So you might want to check out some numbers like planned versus actual numbers, timelines, if everything went according to the planned timeline or not. Where there are certain areas that took more effort than we planned to. Defect areas, right? Or the automation failures. And at the same time, you would also want to know what things went right and things that you would want to continue going forward. Right. So now again, from continuous improvement perspective, some of the reports that we have that can be used and to answer these queries are, there are two: execution burn down. We also have an execution burn up, and the run distribution report. So let's look at the burn down report. This is going to tell us if the execution went according to our planning. So there's a planning feature in AIO where you can tell you can kind of plan ahead as to how many cases should be executed on a daily basis by your team members. So that's the planned pending percentage. And then the actual pending percentage is being shown by the, as the team started executing cases, these numbers would start showing up. It's kind of showing you that at the start, your other team was pretty slow. They only executed 3 cases on the first day, like their daily totals and cumulative totals. Then they kind of picked up the pace to finish. If like because normally we have a 5-day regression if it's a smaller release, so they picked up towards the end. Maybe that's not the best thing. They could have had a good number at the start as well, but the kind of information again is okay. Maybe we don't, going forward, if you run this report and as a team you analyze what happened, then you can, for the next release, you can plan that, okay, maybe we'll intentionally target to kind of finish a little bit start doing cases even like maybe 10 cases to start with on a daily basis, right? Depending on how big the release is. So that kind of insight can be provided with this report. Okay. Or maybe there was a reason that there were only 3 cases executed on the first day. So that can be a discussion among the team members as well, like what happened, why this happened, and what can we do to not repeat it if you feel as a team that it is not something that kind of everybody's on the same page or not, right? So this is the burn down report. And the next one that I want to show is the automation. There is a run distribution report that we offer. This one I have executed on all the automation cycles that we had again, right? Multiple, as I said, multiple automation cycles. Again, the flexibility is provided to you as to what data you want to see. What I have done here is that I'm looking at the pass and failure numbers and why there were automation failures, right? So if you look at this report, there were 342 cases that passed, so of course no failure reason. And for the 72 cases that failed, 30 were out of the code issue, 5 were data issue, 21 were locators change, and 1 was a bug. So again, you kind of get that information as to if your automation is being able to capture bugs, or if it, I think the locators change and data issue is all some things that can be ignored because it happens that the data changes or something. And the one that really needs to be looked at is the bug and of course the code issue, right? So this is the kind of information like where your automation is failing. And again, as I said, the numbers are clickable, so you get the if you have to deep dive in a particular meeting with the team members, it's very easy to do it. Okay. So these are some reports, and again, this is difficult to cover everything in a quick in this webinar. But from a release perspective, uh, you, we have like I've like kind of covered a multitude of reports that we have. Of course, we have a few other reports that can be used depending on what information you are looking for, right? So that's about the the different reports and the different phases that we wanted to cover. I really hope that some of these reports you were able to kind of relate to data elements that you have been looking for. Some of the questions that we had received as part of the registration was also like that there's so much information, right, that gets presented in a QA team, and how do we kind of get a good overview. So I hope some of the reports that we displayed today were helpful in answering those queries. Uh, and as you use these reports, as you start using AIO, right, we hope that these reports can help you make better decisions. Yeah, if we have any questions, I can open it up. I see there are some questions in chat. So I hope the team had looked into it. Sure. Thanks, Cheng. Thanks, Ellie. Right. If there are questions, please feel free to ask them, and we'll be happy to answer any question either about the reports or about AIO in general. Or if you want to go back, look at the recording and come back to us, we'll also be available at help@aiotests.com. Right, so I'm going to give it a minute for everybody to just think about it. Right, I think Peggy, you had this question about the mass of information, right? Uh, I hope that we were able to kind of show you that, yes, there's a lot of information that gets captured in the tool, but at the same time, some of these reports would be really, kind of help in putting the numbers in a view that are helpful and can drive actions out of it. Right. I think if there are no other questions, I think there is. Yeah. Thanks, Peggy. Awesome. Yes, if we don't have any more questions, I think we can wrap up and give you some time back for the day. Thank you everyone for joining. I hope it was helpful.
Thanks, Nupur. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.